Hi, my name's Damion from Decoded magazine. I'm be the moderator today for discussing marketing in 2020, which after our chats to just then, there's a lot to talk about today. But first, before I do, I'm actually going to ask everyone to introduce themselves, just talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll fire straight in.
I'm Grace Flynn. I'm a festival marketing manager at Mustard Media, and we work with loads of festivals, events, different types of things, helping them with their campaigns and launches and marketing and paid media and all the in between.
I'm Dominic Butler from Stanton Warriors, and we were DJs until COVID hit, and now I sit around at home, make music, have coffee, get fat, and come here.
Hi there, I'm Clara Suess. I run Suess Media, which is our boutique PR agency, actually based in Brighton as well. I work with a number of artists and events, including Faithless, Renaissance, Champion, etc. Many of whom have been affected quite a lot by COVID.
Brilliant. So I guess we should just really jump straight into it. So obviously it's 2020. COVID has thrown everything out of whack. When it comes to marketing, though, it's thrown the rule book completely out the window. Dominic, let's start with yourselves as artists. How have you found the transition from being able to push shows and your music and things like that to now having to not having those?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging, but for us, it's worked to just keep engaged with your audience. Obviously, you can't shout about your shows or put pictures up of things you've done. Gig-wise, because no gigs, obviously, but we've just sort of kept kind of authentic interaction with our fans, especially on Facebook and Instagram or whatever, talking to people, asking what they're doing, and putting up old tunes or reflecting back, a bit of nostalgia in there, but just making sure every day we post something which sort of A, sort of goes, we're still here, and B, kind of gives the fans the ability to sort of chat back, like, you're asking questions like, what you guys been up to? Who's making banana bread? Who's reading those books? Who's learnt that language? And having that kind of bit of banter with your fans, which for us has worked out quite well. We get quite a lot of engagement with that, as opposed to sort of just trying to, not naming the artists, but a lot of artists maybe just big themselves up and try and keep this optical thing of going how great they all are and how life's amazing. You can be a bit more self-deprecating and a bit more kind of like, literally just, the word here is basically authentic and keeping it real. And then, as cheesy as that sounds, and it's helped because we put these questions up and then everyone talks about their own experiences and stuff. And I think that's that's our kind of way forward, as opposed to using some people's PR teams and whatnot. I think for any artists wishing to market themselves in this COVID world is to literally do it themselves and just say how they're feeling and be a bit more real about it.
And Clara, so I mean, obviously you'd say you're artists then. How have you found as a PR artist to get through all the, I would say, mud that happens on social media because everyone's talking about COVID or what the government's doing or something else? Everyone's getting a little bit inflamed at the moment. How do you push through the artists now? How is that a big change in the PR scene?
I think the main thing is just to let the music do the talking a lot of the time. And I think, as Dom was saying, it is important that the artist still has their voice and personality. But, I mean, at the moment, everything is just changing day by day. I've got artists who are moving releases back considerably, especially in the early days because they were worried about the lack of touring, thinking touring would resume. And then others that are just going for it. And there's some that don't have releases at all. They're just working on their brand. But I think the main thing is just to focus on the music and not so much on COVID and negatives and things that you can't control because it's out of everyone's hands at the moment.
And with festivals, obviously there's no festivals happening. How do you keep that brand going though? I mean, it must be really trying to push it uphill at the moment.
So we've been quite lucky that we've got a few that we've been able to launch and are in the process of launching for 2021, which obviously means there's stuff to talk about there. But with our other brands and festivals we work with, engagement is, like you were saying, it's so key at the moment, and it's just something that we're finding. Let's ask people what drum and bass track are they listening to at the moment, and what artists they're listening to, and actually we're finding that, you know, if we were to do a puzzle, like guess the DJ or whoever, it's stuff like that people, you know, everyone's online, everyone's sat on Instagram or scrolling, you know, no one's out past 10 p.m. anymore. So, well, no one's out past 10 p.m. that they're telling people. But yeah, we're just finding we've really been able to switch things up. And outside of, you know, the normal Instagram grid where I'd usually do like a graphic, a video push, an artist push, I'm actually being able to do really engaging, cool content with our fan base and do, you know, some stuff that we wouldn't necessarily have done before, but we're getting to experiment with at the moment and trial and error, see if it works, because we've got the flexibility of time on our hands until this is over, sadly.
Well, I think we've got a little bit of time, actually, probably more than today, for sure. Just on the flip side of that, if, you know, we're talking about being authentic and trying to engage with your, you know, your people who buy your music or come to your festivals, or, you know, just basically or with your brand. There's also a flip side to that too, I guess, is where we've seen it a lot. There's a lot of mass divide at the moment in the industry where some artists are taking up some extreme views and then others are not taking any view, and it's creating, there's quite a bit of a rift. We see a lot of artists that are dropping out being friends with them, or, you know, us in the media, we might be seeing what certain people are saying and you know, putting them on their naughty list. So how do you find that, like, you know, to maintain your brand, and some advice that, you know, probably anyone who's watching this, how to look after yourself a little bit better? So
I think it's important to be honest, and I think it's about striking the balance between if there's a cause that you feel really strongly about, then you should continue to speak about it. But you do see some people being controversial for the sake of it. And I know certainly some maybe anti-vax comments on Twitter. Obviously won't name any people, but probably know who we're talking about here. Yeah, quite. And it's difficult because everyone's entitled to their own view, you know, but why enter a debate that is going to be deliberately controversial and alienate a lot of your fan base and press and bookers, etc.? I think, for example, just like using COVID as an example, like Sister Bliss, I work with Faithless, and she's very passionate and spoken about how DJs and venues are being left to rot. That was the phrase she used, by the government. I know Carl Cox spoke very passionately yesterday at Brighton Music Conference. And of course, that's really important because they feel strongly about it and they should use their platform. But I think just being controversial on Twitter, or I think there's times you need to bite your tongue a bit, because no good's going to come out of it by coming out with things that you know are going to upset a lot of your fan base. Yeah,
I had a situation where I agree with exactly what you say. All DJs should be sort of championing this sort of helping out the club situation, which is quite dire. But I put a picture up of when he knocked down Edward Colston statue in Bristol, because I actually went to Colston Primary School in Bristol. My sister went to Colston Girls' School. We never knew the history, the slave trader stuff, and I know that they tried to have the statue taken down before, and they wouldn't move it, wouldn't even change the insignia on it, and blah blah blah. So when they knocked it down, I put on our Stanton Warriors page, like, yeah, good on Bristol. Because I had an emotional connection to it, and I wasn't prepared for the literally 1,000+ comments which came in, mainly from America, going, "You support terrorism, and like these are like Marxists, Black Lives Matter, you're thugs." And I was like, "Oh my God," you know, I was just like, 'cause I went to school, and I was like, "Yeah, f that guy," because we never knew the history, and it was wrong not to know the history of this guy. We had to sort of adore in a way. We had to like go and sort of celebrate him once a year at Bristol Cathedral, the life of this amazing son of Bristol, as it said in the plinth of the statue. So yeah, and I got like 1,000 comments. I spent up all night replying to them, saying no, we don't agree with violence or like killing people. It's just about a statue in Bristol, our hometown, and blah blah blah. And I was quite kind of blown away by the sort of negative, pseudo-racist or blatant racist stuff coming on there. And I was thinking, I got quite upset about it. I was thinking, oh my God, half my fans are like racist or something. And actually clicking on some of the actual people who have been really vocal on our page saying, you like support terrorism and all being paid for by all sorts of conspiracy stuff. And a lot of them are like fake accounts, it seems, like just sort of Russian bots or whatever they are, just to stir up kind of trouble. And it got me thinking twice, should I post that stuff in the future? I don't want to be doing too political or religious or anything like that kind of stuff, but well, I'm not going to be sort of silenced when it's something like close to you, like what Sister Bliss is talking about, sort of the COVID thing or anti-vax or whatever. But there's some sort of line you have to draw where you're like, I'm not going to like allow this on my page, or if someone's being like that, or obviously if someone's being blatantly racist or bigoted, you sort of silence them or let them sort of, you know, have people take them down. But it was quite shocking to have that 1,000 comments literally in about 2 hours. and it became a massive battlefield, mainly between left and right Americans who didn't realise that Bristol's not in America. They just thought, they're like, you guys are destroying our state of Florida. I'm like, hello, no, this is Bristol, this is England. Like, yeah. And I remember, I felt a civic duty to stay up all night and just try and like sort of moderate this like shitfest on our page. And
Do you think it's become more polarized in the last couple of years?
yeah, I think there's the whole kind of discord being spread about just politics and stuff generally has spilled over into dance music. I won't name names, but there were some sort of famous DJs who are, when the George Floyd thing happened, was saying, oh, he's a crisis actor, he's this and that. Some famous scratch DJ I won't actually mention was going, it's made up, you know, it's all done to like divide us all. And I was going, no, I think he was killed. It's quite a bad thing. And I actually did take him on social media. I thought, right, I'm going to fight this fight. You can't be saying that. You can't be laughing at his death, saying it's a joke, you know. And he actually sort of backed down and apologised and said he was being stoned and watching too many YouTube videos. And so I felt a bit good about that. But I'm going to earn about whatever. And then there's DJs who are sort of spouting the QAnon stuff, which is really right, far right, horrendous, you know, like almost anti-Semitic and blah, blah, blah. And you should take a stand against that. But then it sort of blurs over into sort of conspiracy stuff. And sometimes it just wears you out. And you're like, God, I'm not in it for this. I'm a musician, you know. So I don't know where you sort of draw the line. I think you should step up a little bit, but not be controversial for the sake of it, as you say, you know.
I do wonder with you were saying about, you know, the post that you made. I bet you a lot of the people who were really angry probably are just searching terms, because I've seen a lot of, like, say, big name DJs who've posted like about Black Lives Matters, or, you know, and people have come up with really horrible things, and you click on their accounts and you think, I bet you've never even heard of this DJ. You're just searching terms and being deliberately offensive.
Fight everyone on Facebook, yeah.
But do you think from a marketing point of view, if you're managing your brand as an artist, taking a stand on these things, how detrimental can it be to them, or is it sometimes the right side of good? I mean, you know, where do you take a line? I know that in the past I've worked as an artist manager and like doing PR for some artists, having a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning, the artists on tour in America, and they're, you know, writing something really online at the bad time. I go, take it off. Do you find that that's something that you're now telling your clients to be a little bit more wary, or how to word things? Or
I think, you know, at the moment when we're working with clients and when we're putting stuff out there, you know, we're really keen to make sure the FAQs are in place, that all the information people need on that side of things is all there for them to follow. And then obviously when it comes to lineup, you can't control. We've had a few people in the past that have been like top billed on the lineup and then decided to go on some frenzy online, and I'm just like sat there like, please stop, like this is not very good for our campaign, like, and you just have to sit there and ride it. But I think, you know, I think what we try and do with our brands is be really honest with everyone. I mean, it's absolutely wild how many people think we're like making up these festivals and it's a conspiracy theory in itself. Like, they're doing this because they're scammers. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, we're trying to put these on, we're trying to do stuff. And I think there's a lot of skepticism out there at the moment. And there's a lot of keyboard warriors who are which is really frustrating actually, because I think if you think about what's going on with clubs and the government, especially in the UK at the moment, and, you know, it's like we can't go to the clubs, they're not going to open, we're not getting the support. So we're just trying in a way to make these companies survive and keep people in jobs, you know, taking festivals abroad, doing social distance events, which we've been putting on, which have been, you know, amazing. There's some, I mean, all over Bristol, London, Manchester, people are putting on some incredible shows at the moment. And it's just, you know, it's hard because you want your brand to, you know, we all, I think, the industry itself has been really respectful of the guidelines, and, you know, the day they said shut the clubs shut, and that was that. And, you know, we're putting on these events and we're doing things, and we kind of just say to our clients we're working with, you know, put the FAQs out there, be honest with what you're saying. You know, if someone asks a question, give them the answer. I think everyone needs everything lined out. When I get to the club, what's going to happen? You know, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? You know, am I seated? How many people on the table? I think we're just really keen with the people we're working on to make sure all the information's out there. You know, hope that the headliners we book don't go on some media frenzy in the meantime. That could be detrimental. But, you know, yeah, there's definitely skepticism out there at the moment. And I think it's kind of hard in that sense to know what the right wording is to put out. But then I would say, you know, from what I see, the majority of people want to go out and have fun. They want to support the industry. They want to go, even if it's, people just think, sod it. So what? I'm sat with 6 of my mates, not 6 now, 5 of my mates, distance, have to sit down. I've actually sat in front of my favorite DJ and I'm out the house. I think, there's a lot of people that do want that vibe.
It's an interesting thing that you bring up because it really does make me think that, let's say a couple months ago, when the onset of summer, there was starting to become what was now labelled play graves. And you had one side of the promoters who are very high industry people trying to maintain their brand and engage with the government to recoup their money or try and keep their brands. And then you had others who were taking it away and just running raves off and whatever. Do you think the optics, the public relations optics to the general public or to government ministers and things look at that and find it much harder for us to have a better say, saying, we want to keep the clubs open or whatever, when they go, well, hey, you're just not listening to the rules anyway. So how do you find that in marketing, PR sort of thing for the industry as a whole?
I think in the UK, people are mostly doing things the right way. I think when you see these videos of, play graves, they do tend to be in other countries. Interestingly, Italy, which actually is doing quite well at the moment in terms of their numbers, as one that there was a lot of videos popping up. It's an interesting one because I have had artists that have been booked or asked to play at some of these events in countries and they didn't feel comfortable doing them. And I was quite relieved because I didn't want to see videos of them with people without masks on or very close proximity. It's worrying because, like I say, in the UK, I do feel that people are playing by the rules, but the government just maybe are just not listening. Because I think, in terms of you were saying about the way you get a bench and it's so socially distanced with 5 of your friends, you're not allowed to walk around. So surely that's as safe as anything, far safer than the pub or the cinema.
Well, yeah, it's controlled, yeah.
Doing one of those tomorrow, like a socially distance sat on a table thing in Brixton. First gig I've had outside live stream for 6 months, and the rules even then are being sort of tweaked since we did the booking. I think you can what I've heard, you're in your table, you can dance around your table in your pod thing, like you see at these festivals in a little kind of caged area. But now they're sort of saying maybe you've got to sit down, you can't stand up, and now they don't. Obviously, the music wasn't super loud to start with. But now they're saying it's got to be voice volume, so everyone has to shout, they end up spitting. So now I'm thinking tomorrow, what am I going? I'm just going to play quiet, be even hearing music. I'm just put a CD on. I mean, but you're right. People are playing by the rules in England. There is that thing of going abroad. I had a few sort of offers of gigs and sort of places where it's a bit more guerrilla kind of style and some southern Spain or whatever. And I'm thinking, you could get rave shamed, couldn't you? A video pops up online, you DJ, and have loads of people around you with no masks on.
Well, there was a lot of that earlier. There was on Twitter feeds going where they were shaming a lot of DJs, people, some quite really well-known DJs going, look at what you're doing, what you're doing.
People stop it, so yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really dividing things. So, I mean, how do you talk to your artists and how do you, as an artist yourself go, do we make a conscious decision not to take a gig because of the optics and the marketing and PR side?
I think there's death involved, isn't there? It's a serious issue, and there's also I know a lot of DJs can follow the conspiracy stuff. It's all made up and whatever. I'm going to DJ, and but there's people dying, and although we're frustrated by the rules and see the government isn't helping England at all, they've left the clubs and nightlife to rot and whatever. You still got to be sort of conscious of the fact there's a virus out there, and not reluctant, but you sort of got to follow the rules, as painful as it is, because. We did a little party ourselves somewhere in Glasgow, a small farm with some friends. It was all done social distance. It was just 30 people, and even the police turned up and said it was all right and stuff. But we're a bit worried because is the music too loud? We're like, it's a campsite and a picnic place by a lake with some decks. So we said, as long as because we sort of presented to the police as a picnic, it was all right. We didn't use the word rave. And it was that we had all the COVID stuff. We scanned everyone coming in with a gun thing, and everyone did all right, and they were happy with it. But for a minute, we're like, are we breaking the law? Are we actually being wrong here? Because everyone did keep their little bubbles. We were very, But for a minute, we thought, are we those people doing those illegal raves? It's going to end my career? Because people were taking photos and stuff, and I was a bit worried about how it all pan out. But I think we are a little bit sort of on it in England, but I have seen videos, as you say, of other countries where it's full on. Wuhan, when the whole thing started, there's this massive sort of EDC-style rave over here. How of all the places, what? I don't even think that was real or not, but it's proper massive rave going on there. So Chinese seem to be sorted out. I don't know. Is that just I don't know. I mean, who does know anymore? So I don't actually know.
Well, kind of change the topic, like who knows or whatever. We've got a great panel here. We could go on and on about but obviously, things are really tight, and and we touched on this before. So if you're a producer or a record label, you're saying yourself like that some artists are holding back on their stuff. If they don't have the opportunity of like some of these big artists, and they don't want to sit on a lot of tracks because we all know sometimes you're a producer, you go, I just want to get it out, I'm going to get it out. What would be some guidance that you would think to wade you through these muddy waters at the moment, if you had an album release, say, for example?
I think people should release music. I really do. I know at the start people were holding off because they thought, well, especially if it's something they want to perform live, they really want to play it to an audience. And they felt, and also at the start there was an interesting thing I read whereby people weren't downloading as much new music, or the things on Spotify that were doing well were older tracks because people wanted things that were familiar and reassuring. But I think now people have kind of resigned to the fact that this isn't sadly going away anytime soon. So I do think now is a good time to release music. A lot of people have said to me actually that they really like hearing music because it's something that they're just trying to, I guess it's just escapism. It's making them think of normality. And in fact, last night, I know this isn't releasing music, but it's like on the i360, the sets, people were saying how nice it was to almost like think that they were back in a club and hearing new tracks. I just be really wary of sitting on tracks too long. I think just now get the music out there and keep your brand visible.
Yeah, I agree. We had the same sort of initial thought. I was going to be in a few months or hold back his releases. And we put a track out last month and actually made a load of little sort of viral videos to go with it. Actually made like 4 of them. I thought I'd just do one a week just because no one can hear it in a club. So, and all the viral videos did really well, like big numbers, they're kind of funny and humorous and engaging. And actually, the track did really well. We've got high Spotify numbers and all the rest of it. So it's given us confidence. Now we've got another track coming out in like 2 weeks. So yeah, I totally agree. People at home, you've got a captive audience. And also if you're promoting well on social media, more people are going to see your tune than before because everyone's stuck at home staring at their phone. So we get, and we have our little Spotify links and all the videos. You can see the numbers spike when we put a video of a squirrel breakdancing, we'll sync a tune to it, whatever. It doesn't cost us anything. They get millions of views. That's our little way forward. But and also it's just keeping your name out there. And it shows everyone what your music's about and your style and all the rest of it. So, yeah. That's
interesting to say about keeping your name out because artists who I work with who have continued to release music, even ones who were DJing a lot, they're reaping the benefits now. I'm getting a lot of people like press coming and saying, I want them to do a live stream. I want them to like a big, live stream. I want them to do a big interview. So they're keeping the name out there. The artists that held back, I fear are being a bit forgotten about, especially if they're not that chatty on social media.
I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine who's a DJ the other day, and they were kind of saying, God, I don't know whether to put out or what to. And not a blessing at all, because obviously we wanted festival season to go ahead. But the only slight positive from some DJs' perspective that you can take is, festival season every year, you've got that one big track that everyone's playing. You've got your headliners that everyone knows the name of. And, the 18 to 21-year-olds that are a lot of the market that go to festivals, they aren't necessarily the biggest, music heads and aren't that, they just have heard this name because it's played on, Radio 1 or they're on the cover of Mixed Mag or they've got, a cool sponsorship deal with whoever. So they're like, oh, we got to go see that person at the festival. And I was saying to my friend, you know what? Because they've actually been doing loads of live streams, playing distance events, and they're really picking up on social media. And like you were saying, press have been coming and picking up on them. And I was like, do you know what? The only blessing for people that don't always get as big a looking as the top build is that, they're the people that will take these bookings that are going for a lot less money than they'd usually get. But they're like, do you know what? I don't really mind. I want to play. I want to go out. And people are talking about them. So those 18 to, 20-year-olds who aren't really into that, aren't as into the scene, and now being able to make up their own mind. And it's not just, X amount is, at every festival, so we've got to go see them. It's like, oh, I saw this DJ play at, The Cause last week and they were amazing. And I just think it's this real opportunity at the moment for people, those people that are pushing their music and going out and doing gigs and doing live streams to really kind of come through. And I think that's quite a nice thing that's happening. And it's not just another season of that one song or that one DJ.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's leveled the playing field. Actually, I've seen a lot of sort of big famous DJs actually look quite lackluster behind the decks at home. Maybe they can get away with that in Ibiza where the lights are off and they just do this and they just play same sort of sounding tune for an hour, naming no names. And there's some sort of younger guys who obviously thought of their set and they got 3 decks, got acapellas, and they're really working it. And they're actually way more entertaining, way more fun, and way more better than a lot of these famous DJs. And I think post-COVID, I speculate that a lot of sort of DJs who's big for being big might even drop down, and some of these ones who really worked it, like I say, built up Twitch followings and the rest of it, and they do a bit of this, bit of that, and sort of made way more creative, will definitely, like you say, reap the benefits, because I was just bored shitters of some of these, like, I won't name any names, but DJs who are famous just stood there going, let a tune play for 6 minutes, like a cup of tea, and just you think this guy says charges 30 grand a set, he's not even in it, you know. So
it has been a great leveler in some respects, and obviously the internet is great for that because it puts everyone on quite a level playing field, and with very little amount of money to put in some respects, if you can get your head around the tech. I was actually having a conversation to an artist in Australia the other day on a Skype call, and obviously Australia is in a quiet lockdown. Obviously, if you don't know them, that's where I'm from. And because they have shut down the international borders, now is the time for local DJs to really shine and utilize these tools to go out and be at the forefront. So when those clubs reopen, they've done those hard yards. If they're just going to sit around and watch live streams of all the big guys, I mean, it's no big deal. But on top of that, we did also discuss that a lot of these large name DJs will, in some respects, drop down a few pegs. And I guess if we're promoting festivals and things like that, how do you think that's going to change next year with the shift that once were Titans kind of were, they're nobody, and as we were just saying before, a lot of them are pretty boring, like when they're in their kitchen, you know, just having a cup of tea while they're cooking, you know, mixing up.
I think it's going to be really interesting because I think half of 2021, this is providing festival season goes ahead, which touch wood in some aspect will. I think half the festivals are going to say, cool, that's my lineup from 2020, plonk it in, we're going to do it the same. You know, we didn't get to do it this year. So I think, you know, there'll be quite a few festivals that do that, but then there will be people that are, you know, we've all been watching who's been doing stuff. And I think everyone's really in touch with kind of who people are listening to. And I think it will change. I think, you know, whereas before there's, you know, say, depending on the genre, 5 to 10 hit lists, and you're like, we need them for a headliner, we need them. I think actually there are people that are kind of mid-tier that we would now turn around and say, they've really grown they've got 10,000 more followers on Instagram, they're doing this, they're engaging, you know, they're going to do some content with us. They're going to actually, that's another thing, like I think, you know, if you pull someone into a festival, you want to be able to work with them and do some really cool stuff. And I think often with, you know, some of the people, the top bill people, it's hard because they're so busy. And I think, you know, it will be a nice shift in people coming through and really kind of continuing this. I feel like everyone's trying to be really inclusive at the moment. And, you know, when artists are putting stuff out there, they're trying to be engaging. They're trying to make their, you know, live streams interesting. They're trying to make their sets, you know, they're trying to put out there on Instagram, you know, hey guys, I'm doing this, what's everyone up to? And kind of, you know, interacting more. And I think hopefully it will bring some more, you know, a more unified form into what we're putting out there and who we're working with. And I think there'll be this real intimate vibe between the artist and the people in the audience when we come back to actually doing live shows.
And surely, let's be honest, that was much needed, you know. Yeah. I mean, I've loved music all my life, been DJing all my life and whatever, and then sometimes you go to a beef and you see, I'm going to check out so-and-so, he's all hyped up and whatever, and I'm sort of sober watching his DJ, and like, there's a friend of mine who sort of gives all the tech to him. He's like a rep for Pioneer, I won't name any names, and he has all these gadgets and stuff. He gives them all to them, and they have it all set up in the booth. But they're not even using it. It's just for the sort of video stuff, and they're just too busy, the girls hanging out or whatever. And I'm thinking, in my DJ brain's like, why have you let that tune play out? Why don't you mix that in? You could do and they just don't really care because they're just millionaire guys. The crowd is off their heads and whatever, and they just become a bit lazy. A lot of these big guys, they're earning so much money. They're almost being paid for a personal appearance, like DJ famous so-and-so's there. Everyone's like, wow, look, it's blah, blah, you know. I'm thinking, I said the mid-tier ones are more hungry, they're going to work hard behind the decks, they're going to make these intricate sets which got us in dance music in the first place back in the days, all the mixtapes and whatever, and they're going to work hard on the social media and get in and not just like turn up and, I don't need to do a little Instagram post because I'm so-and-so and I'm a millionaire, I'm on my yacht anyway at the moment, I'm busy, you know. So I think that's a sort of silver lining from the whole COVID thing is like, the big people have just monopolised it for too long, might have to come down a peg or 6 and boom.
I completely agree, and I think it is long overdue. And I also think and hope it also might be a bit of a death knell of VIP culture. And also, you were just saying about people sort of in the booth, and like you've seen those pictures, not naming any names, of certain DJs, obviously, and people just a wall of camera phones. Yeah. And it's just, it just kills the vibe. And I think most DJs hate it because it's quite intrusive, very intrusive. But I think that if it moves to more people just focusing on the music, less about the ego, less about I'm there, here's a photo of me there and the DJ, I think that'd be such a good thing.
Yeah. Hopefully bring down the prices of their fees as well a little bit.
I mean, we could definitely hope for that. That would be that'd be great.
Spread it around a little bit more. So I mean, obviously, just out of that, I mean, if you are a mid-tier sort of DJ, now is your chance to practice, hone your technical skills, hone your marketing skills, really start some following, because it will open, touch wood, whenever it will. But on that, though, has been a really big thing since lockdown, and that's live streaming. It exploded, it went out off the roof, and people were putting some effort in, some were putting none in, and some went extravagant, like say Tomorrowland or things like that. So what's your experience, Dominic, in live streaming, or what you've seen, that what's working and what's not?
At first, personally, I was just like, I can't bother to do this, DJ in my kitchen. I have to clean my kitchen up for starters. And then when my deck's broke, we want to buy another deck and And then, so I sort of held back from doing it, quite frankly. And I just saw everyone's doing it. I was watching a few, some were good, some were bad. And then inadvertently, but holding back so much, we got a really good opportunity, one down here. It's part of this conference, sort of set up one on Brighton 360 Island, moving tower, which is pretty cool, do you know what I mean? So we did that, that's good, look, did that, it was really good fun. And I enjoyed that, got a really good interaction, because we had done one for so long, we probably built up our live stream sort of stock value in its sense. And then off the back of that, I did one on, we went out to the wind farms on a boat on a super sunny day with Norman Cook, on a super small little boat, and we just had a load of fun. I was DJing, he was fishing, he was DJing. That was great. And then we did, and then I did a third one, which ended up DJing a sort of Formula One online after party at McLaren HQ on all their fancy cars with Carl Cox, and all sponsored. We actually got paid for it, and it was a big kind of F1 McLaren thing. So that was good. So that got me thinking, if you're going to do a live stream, I mean, I was lucky to get these opportunities, but somewhere where it's like that, where it's a spectacle, it's something to look at, it's cool. I just couldn't handle me just going, all right, guys, in the kitchen, yeah. When you're DJing, you've got to let a tune play for a few minutes. Stand there.
Blue light disco, 80s lights from your school disco in the background.
Yeah, I just find it a little bit like, is that really, So, but there's some people like who just, I think Bob Sinclair was one of the people who started doing it every single week. He was looking like enjoying it. I put it up to his value. Some people, we naked about anyone, but like he just looked, like as I said before, really bored, And some people who just got super creative, a lot of sort of, not necessarily scratchy, but sort of people who sort of mash it up and a bit of turntables and that kind of stuff. I found that some of those people were really fun. I was watching Jazzy Jeff at home. It was just like he was playing house, he was playing this, he was cutting it up, he was talking, but not annoyingly. And it was just like really vibrant, really fun, and it was just great to see his skill. Obviously, amazing DJ and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you got something interesting going on, i.e. the background or what you're doing, like musically, if you're just a boring tech house DJ, it's going to stand and look really moody, then don't bother.
Yeah, I think actually you're probably doing yourself more harm than good.
You said it, not me.
We all said a minute ago, you guys in the pub.
And also, I think you're opening yourself, because I mean, God, I think you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism. If you look bored out of your nut, or
looking at your phone.
Yeah, and I've seen constantly. It's so boring.
So what are you doing?
Just like,
and actually, I think
someone's on Hinge.
And I think some people have had a new lease of life, obviously away from the electronic music world. But like Sophie Ellis-Bextor, she's got a huge new fan base by her kitchen discos, just her singing with her kids running around. And I'm not a massive fan, but actually, she comes across really well and endearing. And she's got a whole new fan base on the back of it, and things like that. Just be a bit more, bring your personality through. You don't have to have live in a mansion and be doing it on a yacht or something, but just something that's a bit more, brings your personality through and look like you're enjoying it.
Entertainers at the end of the day, it's the entertainment industry, like entertain, that's the sort of bottom line. They just think I'm great because I'm so big and I have loads of money, so everyone's going to love me. And actually it's quite painful is when you see the sort of mildly boring ones, not naming any names, you can see it when they've done a few of them, people aren't logging on again because DJ so-and-so who's big, it's actually quite boring. So their fan base is in a sense is diminishing. You sort of see someone super famous, a 30 grand a set DJ, having like 250 people watching. And you're like, God, I'd log off if I was him. I pretend I've got like a Facebook takedown or whatever. But I don't think that helps them at all. I think actually that's damaging for their reputation, their image. And,
do you think it's been a bit oversaturated now?
It has now, yeah. There's so much out there,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's still people, as you say, people at home are still a bit bored. So I mean, I think Facebook banned it now anyway, haven't they? In a sense,
Well, I think they
takedowns
just
are hard.
clarified it a little bit.
Yeah, when we did ours, we whitelisted all the tunes, and the tunes they sort of muted out were our own tunes on our own label. I just couldn't make it. I tried to sort of email in Facebook, get these like bots reply, and I was like, literally, all the tracks they could have like done. It's like their own ones, but apart from those problems, which I think they're getting a bit worse now, aren't they? The whole Facebook.
Yeah.
The 1st of October is that now, isn't it? They sort of said you can't do a risk of you having your whole page taken down for copyright violations. I don't know that's going to scare everyone off, and there'll be less ones doing it. Don't know.
Or just migrate to somewhere like Twitch or YouTube, I suppose, is where people
Or
go
Mixcloud,
Yeah.
where it's legal and stuff like that. So it's quite good.
Why didn't Facebook sort of work with the record labels to sort this out? They got captive audience. We're in a new era. Kind of just like bend some rules, make it happen, get a license. £1 billion company, Facebook. Why can't they do what radio stations do? Some Shazam PRS style stuff to make sure people got paid or whatever. Why do they make it so difficult? I never really understood that. You know.
We could be sitting here talking all day about
Mark
that.
Zuckerberg answers these questions.
Yeah. If you're watching us, we want answers. But I mean, there's been some really creative people. I mean, obviously, Circle is by far the most craziest when they do their views and stuff where they're at. And I've seen a lot of people on a smaller budget scale, like local DJs. I've seen it all around the world. Buy a drone and start doing footage and put some decks up. And I think when they start, the bar's being set, rather than doing it in their kitchen and, you know, cats running along and their mum's in the background, you know, making dinner or something. It's great to see that the level's going up and up and up rather than it just, you know, being stagnant and boring. When it comes to the legalities and Facebook and stuff taking down, I mean, there are other ways out there like Mixcloud, like I was saying, you know, if you want to do it. But it's always going to be difficult. But taking that, I guess, also was saying it does go into your brand, and you're saying it can lose followers. Do you think that if you keep doing too many things or keep pushing out stories, whatever, you can lose people? Like, how does that feel? Like, you know, if you're pushing too much on them?
I think you could if you're playing. If your music's lackluster, you're not switching up what you're doing. You're playing the same kind of sound or whatever it is. You know, too much anything is kind of boring. And so someone goes, "Oh, I've always liked this DJ, and they tune in for the third time. And it's kind of the same stuff." Surely you're going to think, "Oh, maybe I'll go and check someone else out." It's natural. People are going to move away. If you're like keeping it different, keeping it mixed up, and different locations, maybe a back to back with someone you wouldn't expect it, or some sort of thing. A bit of interaction or whatever, then maybe you're going to keep the engagement. But it's literally down to engagement. If you can't engage and make people there, and it's like everyone, it's sort of level playing field, as you said earlier on, you know. So there's only themselves to blame if you're boring, basically.
And Clara, how have you found then, just on that topic about pushing too much stuff, when you speak to media? Obviously, this is something I deal with, but how are you finding it? For both of you guys, having now to pitch to media in different ways or different stories, or not just your standard, here's a press release, go.
Yeah, I think it's all about being as creative as possible. And I think, I mean, even before COVID, the whole days of so-and-so releases a track isn't a huge, unless it's their first track in 10 years or a new album or something really like they did it on the moon or something, you know, or someone they've, you know, collaboration with someone who hasn't released anything for ages. It's not really that newsworthy. I still do have, you know, every time a release comes out, people want the news, they want the reviews, but it's harder and harder to get. And obviously premieres, a lot of people don't want to labels don't want to run things in advance more and more. So it's getting increasingly harder. Also, there's less media, sadly, as well. Everyone's spread really thinly. But I think it's all about trying to be thinking outside the box, trying to be as creative as possible, and rather than just saying, you know, please write about, you know, the track, you know, think about a really exciting interview you could do. I mean, one that I'm doing at the moment is getting artists to sort of try and interview each other, you know, and so, you know, a lot more video content as well. You know, because ultimately it's all about the engagement and what is going to get the numbers on social media. So at the moment, I'm getting a lot of press asking for video content, video interviews, which can be difficult when the artists, you know, don't live in the same place. But, you know, it's trying to do as much, you know, video, you know, just trying to be as creative as possible.
Well, I mean, video is the biggest, highest driver, and Facebook will actually, their algorithms push your video higher than if you just put a link in and stuff. So
fans love it as well, and they're more likely to engage with it and share it than if it's just an article.
And you get more, we actually will now, sort of something we're doing, like you were saying with content. I mean, first of all, I'm like the biggest advocate for like, take a DJ, go make a pizza with them. Like, I've done that before and been like, cool, you two are going to make a pizza and do a pizza off. Like, go do something exciting. But also, we find even if we take a image and animate it, so say like we're putting the lineup out again, but there's something different on it, we'll put a couple of different, what's it called, like gift style things on it to, boost the engagement. And even something as simple as that, we're finding, you get a lot more views, a lot more clickbait, a lot more.
The stat says if you put a filter over a photo on Instagram, you'll get 8 times more viewing than you will just putting a standard photo up. So I guess understanding and, reading about what some of the best practices are. And there's so many blogs out there about how to do things and the best way to do it. I think now's the time, if you are sitting at home, read constantly.
You're right about the blog thing. There's so much info out there. You haven't got to be some sort of expert at sort of social media to be an expert at social media. One evening in, you can just look at latest blogs, which and just do it by date. So, one done last month, and somebody somewhere wrote all the tips. Like you said, you know the filter thing. Actually, I'm gonna do that now. But there's loads of things. I mean, I'd learned something.
I'll give you 6 of me. It's fun.
Yeah. But you're right, and people. I just see. I was having this conversation earlier on. I get almost quite social media anxiety when I see people do stuff and you've done that wrong. Why you did that one? You've put like 3 event pages of the same event. Why have you got like? And I just sort of helping people. Like just sometimes I just cut myself like, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Don't have 3 photos in 3 different hours. Have 1 picture. Have every comment on there. And just anyone out there needs to learn these things because it's free to learn. You can watch a YouTube tutorial. And it's a free service in a way to promote yourself. So everyone should utilise it, I think. And
that's why the personalised stuff works really well. You always get really good engagement. Like you said, like go for a pizza with so and so.
Try that.
a two. With Red Light and Melody, so I took them to Made of Dough and was like, right, both make a pizza. We'll do a taste test. Got another DJ in to come and do. They were all playing on the lineup for the festival I was working on, and they did a taste test, and then the engagement we had, and then we sold the pizza at the festival. So like the fans could go and buy Red Light ones, the fans could go and buy his pizza, but it was amazing. It was just such a cool piece of content to be working on, and we just repurposed it throughout the campaign and then had it on site. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I think I went to an AD one where Sasha sat down and made us all lunch one day. It was a big long table and they were in the kitchen and stuff. And it was brilliant, it was really engaging to have journos come in and just be treated like that. But the video footage out of it was they could keep using and native instruments chucked all in with it and stuff, and it was brilliant. So I think thinking outside the box in what you want to do and stop trying to replicate what other people are doing, honestly, it becomes boring, it becomes stale. As an editor myself, we see right through it a million times. We see the exact same press releases, the exact same pictures, and it's like, come on, guys, what have you got something different for us, and, we're open to a lot of things. And as PR people, I know with your artists and stuff as well, I wrote a post a while back about saying artists should really utilize PR people and marketing people a lot more and let them work for you rather than just going, here's a bunch of cash, now go get me an article or something like that. So how do you find that with artists and stuff? Do you find that they're much more engaging now than it was, say, 5 years ago, that they're very more focused now, or they want to spend their, tick off where this money's going a lot more now? Or
I think they realise the value of PR, but at the same time, I always hear stories of PRs, and I suppose it's, say, any sort of, management of people who just kind of do a bit of a copy and paste job.
Not naming names.
No, not naming names. And it just goes to show you need to be personal. You need to develop the relationships. You need to be creative. I'll see people saying, and I'll often get artists coming to me saying, I must say I had a bit of bad experience with PRs. I wasn't going to use one because I paid them all this money, especially big agencies sometimes. And, I got nothing out of it. And I'll say, well, what do they do? Often they just sent out a press release. I'm like, oh, well, obviously. And it's like trying to get to know the person and, and I think they realize the value of it. But I always see this thing, it's like, it's working together. It's really collaborative. So I'll obviously went in the days of touring, trying to develop a good relationship with their tour manager, so I know where they're playing, what territories we can tap into, like say, do a video content with that in that territory. AD is obviously a great example because you can do cool things around Amsterdam.
And how are you finding it, like with your clients now, with their marketing and what they're looking at doing? Are they becoming more creative or trying in new technology and things like that for festivals? Or
I mean, yeah, I mean, I literally love content. So anything I'm like, let's do this. And I just get really enthusiastic about it. And kind of, you know, we work with also artists as well. We do like artist roadmaps and help them if they've got a big launch or like an Ibiza season coming out. So that, I mean, people are up for it. People are so bored of the same Instagram grid and the same, you know, hi, here's a lineup, here's my announcement video, and I'm just like, who gives a shit? Like, we've seen it all 100 times. So I think, you know, we're really conscious of that. As obviously you need that, and we do actually put those out, because I'll look like a hypocrite when you go back and look at like some of the work. But, you know, cut through the noise. And artists at the moment aren't doing a hell of a lot of them, like, unless they're in the studio producing. People have time on their hands. So if you're going to put a festival out, or you're going to work with an artist and, you know, help them with their brand, or, you know, whatever you're doing, come up with some cool ideas. You know, go and get on a Jeep and go on a Jeep tour of wherever, like Abu Dhabi, and, you know.
Because I'm finding a lot more artists, even, and you don't need big budgets for this at all. These are people doing it on a total shoestring. A lot of them are doing more videos of their tracks, and some of it's so DIY, and they look great, and they're getting a really good response, because it's kind of people like the sort of, not, you know, cheapness of it all.
We've often done it like some of our most engaging videos, just in the studio. We make a track, we've got a rapper in or a singer in, just filming, like taking a piss a little bit, you know, and just have a bit of banter. And it's real. It's like a fly on a wall reality TV thing. But I think from all these points, it's like we get asked this question in interviews a lot, like, what advice do you have for people? And one little phrase I used to overuse was like, basically, originate, don't duplicate. It's kind of what you're saying. It's all the time. Like, don't copy, do original, don't copy that. Everyone's, like you say, bored of this, that, and the other. Likewise, in making music, the same sort of thing can be put across literally anything. People want new stuff, interesting stuff, engaging stuff, marketing through to music, through to everything about your whole brand, basically.
So, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up now. But
How already?
we're pretty close to it. We're going cut. I'm gonna. But I guess what we can take away from it very quickly is be authentic. Content is king, basically. As marketers, content is king, and you know, try and be yourself and be who you want to be online.
Have fun with it, you know.
Yeah.
It's life. It's fun. It's engaging. It's entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks very much, guys, for coming along. I guess as well, like we'll put up some details. I'm sure BMC put up some details later. So if you want to ask some questions later, we can try and get on and say hello. So anyway, thanks very much, everyone, and we hope you enjoy this. It's not a very sunny day out there, but thank you. Cheers.